My name's Michael Moore.
I'm sorry.
No, Mike actually, but I'm the good Michael Moore. I've only been here 14 months. I'm not a professional diplomat, but I know when I go around town, people expect Michael Moore to turn up, and they're extremely disappointed. I'm not quite as entertaining. Anyway, look, you're most welcome to our place. We're very proud of this building and this facility. And in New Zealand Indigenous culture, when you're on marae, which is a meeting place, you refer to the history of where you are. New Zealand Maori is an oral culture, and so when you go there, you hear for hours the history of the place, because that reflects who we are. And the history of this place reflects who we are. We purchased this property, 14 acres, not this building, it was the park, in 1942. And this was a pretty dark hour. Now, things have gone very bad in our part of the world. This may well have been our government in exile. And the New Zealand strategy since 1942 has been a consistent one to engage with America and to see what we can to keep America in our region. No one in our region is saying, Yankee, go home. If anything, we say, where are you? Welcome back. And we do get it. Next year is an important year in New Zealand history. It's the 70th year since the Marines came to New Zealand. And it is our chance to repay that debt of honour we had to the Marines who turned up in 1942. Here's the history of that. We're involved obviously in the war from day one. Our Prime Minister at the time said, where Britain goes, we go. Where Britain stands, we stand. And we had taken our troops out of New Zealand. We had, and we were in the desert, and our divisions were there. We had no troops. Japan came into the war. Australia and New Zealand are best friends. You know, we're brothers and cousins. We have everything in common except sport. And normally, Australia and New Zealand don't have a difference of opinion on global strategy or military strategy. We had a difference in 1942. The Aussies brought their troops back from the desert, and they went into the field and were the first people on the land to stop the Japanese in Papua New Guinea. We took a different road. We said we'll leave our troops in the desert. They're desert fighters, they're used to it. It's dangerous to bring them home, but here's the deal. We'll leave our troops in the desert on one condition: the Americans send a division down to New Zealand. Franklin Roosevelt agreed to that. Our first ambassador here was at the time Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance and ambassador to America. So that's the history of this place. And there are ghosts in the old building down there where Franklin Roosevelt came. There was a guy, Walter Nash, had dinner with Eleanor Roosevelt. They were very close buddies. So we're following in those footsteps. Those of you who've been to New Zealand know something of us. That video talks a little bit about us. 4.5 million people, 30 million sheep. You know of our wine, but actually we make more money in New Zealand out of selling high-class yachts than we do wine. You know of Lord of the Rings. You know those beautiful mountains. You may not know that Avatar, the graphics, were done in New Zealand. That is a very thriving industry. And so from robotics through to building wine, building ships, we are a high-tech country. You probably know that a Kiwi was the first person to climb Mount Everest. You may not know it was a New Zealander who first split the atom. You probably know of something about New Zealand commerce. If you have a look at the UN figures, we're the third most open economy in the world, other than Hong Kong and Singapore. So we're internationalists, totally open. You may well have seen surveys of the best countries to do business in. How long does it take to set up a company? How quickly can you register it? How good are your bankruptcy laws? Ease of doing business. New Zealand is always in the top 2 or 3. The surveys that say on a level of corruption, we're always the least corrupt country with Finland, and we're always elbowing them. So we're quite proud of that. And I welcome those who want to come down and visit us. those who want to do business, want to come to our universities, want to be part of this. Americans are very popular in New Zealand. This may surprise you. I was Minister of Tourism in the 1980s, among other things. And we did surveys of what visitors think of New Zealand. It's changed, but in the 1980s, here's the deal. The surveys of Americans showed they liked New Zealand, and it kept coming through. New Zealand's great. It reminds us of the United States when Eisenhower was president. I took that as flattery, actually. We are slightly old-fashioned. We have slightly old-fashioned values of work, of living at your best, and I think those are American values too. And that is why we have so much in common. So I want to thank you for coming here, for honouring us with this place, to pay tribute to what your lads have done in our common cause over the last few generations, and what your lads and women are now doing in defence of the values we hold firm. We get it. We do not always agree. Families have disagreements. That is not the point. But we do get it, and we do understand. And I tell dear friends in big houses not far from here, New Zealanders are quite, we're contrarian. We'll do almost anything we're asked, but nothing we're told. And your administration gets it too. And these are the happiest days to be an ambassador in New Zealand for a generation, and I'm very lucky to be here, claiming the credit for all the work others have done. So welcome.